Hi guys, it's Stu here from Samsung Now. Samsung Now is where we look at all things Samsung, all things tech and all things gaming and everything in between. As you know, we're going to be rebranding and I'm aiming to actually do that this week. This video is about Bixby. As we know, that's the virtual AI assistant for the Samsung S8 and the soon, well today in fact, to be announced Note 8. And for the last, well, since they promised it, it was pretty lackluster. There wasn't much going on. It didn't have the voice features. The only real cool feature that it had was the, take a photo of something and it would figure out what it is and then look for it online and what have you. Today, in the UK, in Australia, Canada, and a few other countries, South Africa, we're actually now getting the Siri-esque, the Google-like sort of voice assistant that we're kind of used to having on our phones. And I've recorded a video of me using it. And you won't actually hear me speak, and you'll see the video probably on my right as I speak, and I need to move over, in fact, so you can see it. Initially, when I first tried it, like a lot of you guys, it was very poor. I wished there was something else I could do with the button. And I still wish there was something else I could do with the Bixby button. If I could have that allocated to some other app, then that'd be great. But still, as far as I know, Samsung won't allow us to do that. Whether they will in the future, I don't know. But Bixby, when it was released, was pretty poor. They were selling this, this super AI, which turned out not to be that great after all, and then promised that it would come fully featured in the spring. Spring came and went, and several weeks ago, I can't remember the exact number of weeks, but it was finally released in Korea and the US. And, it's had okay reviews. It's still a little bit clunky, as you can see from my use of it in the video that you'll see on the right, and I'm using various commands and trying to pull up various things. And the first initial reaction to it is I'm shouting at my phone an awful lot, because Bixby has a function much like all the other AIs, where you can just say, "Hi Bixby," and the phone will know that it's you and unlock and come up with the Bixby app. And it doesn't really work that well. What I'm finding is that I'm actually shouting an awful lot, and in fact shouting so loud that my neighbor actually told me what the weather was going to be like tomorrow. When I'm using it in the video you're seeing on my right now, is I'm actually just pressing the Bixby button, keeping it pressed, and then talking. I found that it worked an awful lot better then. Issues with the fact that it's still the US version. There's not a UK version with a UK voice, British voice. There's not a South African version or a Canadian version. And we all have colloquialisms and sayings and different sort of ways of saying very similar things. Mum instead of mom, sidewalk, not pavement, or pavement and not sidewalk, and all these various things. That there are these differences, although sometimes subtle, the phone sort of fails on them slightly. And that's kind of where we need sort of more regional versions rather than just having a Korean version and a US version. My experience with it, and it's kind of much like how it was with Siri and how it is with Google and how it is with Amazon, Alexa, is I find I really don't use them. I find it quicker for me personally just to go to the app that I have on sort of my main sort of home screen and then go from there, rather than pressing a button and doing it that way. The only thing I found that I've ever really used things like Bixby for, and I don't know whether I'll use it, but certainly things when I had an Apple phone, I used Siri or Google's AI, which is an awful lot better than Bixby in my opinion, is setting up appointments. It's very quick and easy just to say, "Hey Siri, hey Google, hey Bixby, set up an appointment for tomorrow at 2 p.m. with XYZ. That's the only time I've really ever used it. Other things like turning off Bluetooth and what have you, and also a lot quicker, just sort of swiping down a little bit and then just pressing the Bluetooth icon or just turning down the volume or doing things like that. You'd have to be incredibly lazy to want to speak to your phone so much. And this brings me on to the other thing, is that it doesn't feel naturally, for me at least, to actually be speaking to my phone, and it's not something I want to be doing in public. For instance, I don't want to sort of make an appointment and make everyone know that I'm making an appointment at 2 o'clock tomorrow with, you know, whoever. Or, you know, I want what I'm doing on my screen to be private, and I want my interaction with my phone to be private too. So in public, I certainly would never speak to it. And then when I'm using the phone anyway, I find it more natural to use apps than I do trying to figure out how to speak to my phone. And this is kind of where AI needs to make a real leap. Some are improving hugely, but overall we're not seeing that leap where we can naturally speak. We're having to sort of structure sentences in a very particular way, sometimes an unnatural way. And this sort of leads to a lot of having to backtrack or delete what we're trying to do, and then we give up and then just move to the app anyway. So I have an awful lot of problems with these AIs anyway, and they need to improve massively. But Bixby, when you compare it to Google and Apple Siri and Alexa, which is kind of more sort of suited to Amazon's ecosystem really, and no real sort of phone usage. But I think it's the poorer cousin of all of those. It does have some cool features that we've got used to, and we've used a bit, you know, in terms of the photo, taking a photo of something and then it finding it on the web and finding, say, a shopping, you know, allowing you to sort of find a product that you've just seen and then find it on the internet. That's kind of handy, but in terms of the interaction, sort of voice interaction, I still find it confusing and a little bit limited. There's so many commands, you know, they say there's, you know, several thousand commands that you use, but I think, you know, how many of us actually remember a lot of these commands, and how many commands do we actually need? You know, do we need to interact in every single way and with our phone vocally? And I don't think we do. I think, you know, I understand why they're developing it, and it's all well and good, it's great. But it's still very limited in the true sense of what we need it to do for us to really function with our phones in a natural way. That's a way off, I think. I find it too cumbersome to try and figure out what I need to say, and a lot quicker to go to an app. The only time I've ever used it, as I've said before, is when I'm sort of making an appointment, and I'll say, you know, make an appointment for tomorrow or whatever. Other than that, I don't really use it. I may sort of say, can you tell me the time in New York, in Nashville, in Chicago, or wherever, or can you tell me the weather? Very simple things. So far, you know, it's a cool thing to have, but I wish they would allow us to use that button for something else. It's a bit annoying that, you know, you still accidentally find that you're pressing this button and it comes up and Bixby comes up. But overall, functionally, it's much like all the others, but a poorer cousin. It has issues with the British English, and I'm sure it has issues with the Canadian English and South African and all the other versions of and the languages that people are using, and trying to sort of shoehorn it into using the US version. So let me know your thoughts. For me, it doesn't work. I don't really like it. It doesn't feel natural to me. The interaction with it is a little bit clunky, as you're sure you've sort of seen on the video on the right. You're still kind of having to tap your phone, and you're having to have the device pretty close to you anyway, even if you're using the Bixby button, for it to hear you clearly. And I'm in a very quiet room. I couldn't imagine what it would be like somewhere really busy. So, you know, it's still kind of limited. It's still more of a gimmick. And it's the very poor cousin of all the others that are out there. The only cool thing it's got going for it is the photo thing. So that's my feelings on Bixby. I don't rate it. I wish we could use that button for something else. Maybe we will in the future, who knows. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your favorite Bixby things. One of the cool things with Bixby, as you can do with Siri and Google and what have you, is you can ask it silly questions. And I also I should be showing you a video round about now of me asking the phone some very silly questions. That's the only fun thing for it half the time. So my feelings are pretty, don't really use it. Probably would never use it until it got really good. But let me know what commands you give Bixby, what you think of Bixby, what you believe Bixby could become. You know, do you think Samsung are making a bigger thing out of Bixby than it really is? And they certainly released it too soon. It certainly wasn't ready for when the phone was. So let me know your thoughts. But for me, I think it's a bit of a very poor cousin of all the other AIs out there. You know, it's slightly ugly and a bit bucktooth and a bit dim, whereas the others are a bit smarter, got nice teeth, nice hair. Okay, thanks guys. I'm going to be doing some more videos today, so please look out for those. Okay, have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.